What is success for you? What is important for you? Just because we've always done it that way, does that mean that's the only way to do it? Is that the best way to do it? Is there another way to do it? Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just go get a good wheel and use a good wheel that's already been done. So it's all about, what things mean to you, where do they fall in the hierarchy of what success is.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan, host of the Hard Way podcast. I've got my favorite big wave surfer, my only big wave surfer buddy, Laird Hamilton, on the line. We are hanging out. Welcome aboard, sir.
Honored to be here, Joe. Always a pleasure.
Did you grow up in the waves? Like everybody wants to know, how the hell did you go from just being a regular guy to a super big wave lunatic surfer? How did that happen?
Well, my parents were my biological dad, my mom. They were from Southern California. Grew up in the surf culture. My mom took me to Hawaii when I was a child, and kind of some crazy things. One of them is I moved into a valley called Wainiha, which means wall of water. And then I grew up at another beach called Lumahai, which was death by drowning. And my stepdad was a great surfer. I learned how to swim at a probably one of the most dangerous beaches in the world. It's one of those things where I think it was, predestined or however you want to call it. But yeah, my mom said I could swim before I could walk. Like I'd crawl to the pool and just flop in, and then I could get myself around. That's really the start of it. So being in that environment and then being attracted to the ocean, and then having kind of a, being a little thrill seeker, kind of daredevil, but just you're born. My stepdad said big wave riders are born and not made. You don't make them. We always say you can't make an eagle out of a chicken. You can only make a super chicken. I think mine was a combination of, right place, right time, right disposition, and then, stay alive, try to stay alive.
As you're talking, I'm thinking there's probably been, 10,000 golfers that tried to do what Tiger Woods did, but they found the one guy that had all the bones to, like you. They found the one guy that happened to be in the right place and it stuck. They found Michael Jordan happened to land on a basketball court.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it's out of our hands. We like to say, that we're, it's because of our uniqueness, and I think there's, I personally believe in a level of predestined. I think there's just certain things that, your life goes along and certain things happen and you're in a spot and not all of it's fun, and you'd like to, when you're in it, you'd like to change it. But at the end, when you look back, you're kind of like, oh, well, that all kind of made sense to put me where I am or to make me who I am.
But like, how old were you when you said, fuck it, we're going for it. I'm going for these giant waves. Was it teenage years?
Well, it usually happens in puberty. It's like, I think males, it's like, when do males start really, testing it? It's you get testosterone and you're like, okay, you're a little man, but you become a man, and you're kind of like, when do you look at your dad and think maybe I can take him?
My boys got me, by the way. They play with me now like a cat plays with a mouse.
Exactly. But that started then. I think you need a certain physicality to do it. If you look at surfing and you look at the history and you see surfers, that you can see it in professional sports as well, where you see, maybe it's a little early for some, maybe a little later, depending on the sport itself. But, you see right when the physicality hits with the experience, if you've had enough experience until you get to that point where you have the physicality to be able to do it, it's right then, whenever that is. And it could be, in some places it could be 13, 14, could be 15, 16, could be 18. But usually it happens it happens right in your, I just think it happens right around puberty, like right around when you start to kind of go from boy and start turning into a man.
Look, I know you made your bones with the big waves, right? And you've been, knock on wood, you've been safe and sound and survived it all. But looking back and being logical about it, would you tell your younger self to go for it? Or do you think it was somewhat irresponsible? Like, how do you think about it?
Well, I think there's a certain level of irresponsibility that you have to do to pursue anything wholeheartedly. I think you kind of, at a certain point, if you're too responsible and not willing to take a certain level of risk, I mean, I just don't know how can you do anything, right? So, we talk about it in surfing. You're either operating in denial, in ignorance, or within your skill level, and then it's just a combination of those three. Maybe a little denial, a little ignorance, good skill, maybe no skill, all denial and all ignorance, and all of them seem to work, at times. But it takes a certain, amount of, a level of denial in a way to kind of, whenever you're doing something that has such high consequence, I think there has to be a level of denial, because if you were really looking at everything rationally, that would probably stop you from actually being able to do what you need to do to pull it off. And so you kind of have to put some of that stuff away. I feel I think that's just you. If you didn't, you'd rationalize yourself right out of the situation.
Now, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about whether it's Elon Musk or Jordan or right, like you name it, they've all kind of let it fly in the wind at times in order to achieve great things.
Yeah, you have to. I just think that's part of the formula, whatever the formula is. I think that is a piece of it, because otherwise, you have people talking you out of it. Some of the reason is just maybe because they didn't pursue it, like they maybe had an opportunity at a certain time, but then they weren't willing to just throw stuff out and just and take the leap.
When did you take your wild adventures, your crazy stuff, your daredevil, waves? When did you pivot to like business? Because I know you as a responsible family man, businessman. So like when you were out there in the waves, did you say, I'm gonna invent paddleboarding?
No, I've always been curious around innovation. I love the quote Thomas Edison said, all you need to be an inventor is an imagination and a pile of junk. I had a lot of imagination. We were always kind of creative growing up, and we didn't have a lot, so we would make stuff out of nothing. We'd get somebody give us an old bike and we'd do some weird thing with it and try to make it work. And so I always had that aspect of it. And I think that was being cultivated all along. A lot of the innovations that I've been in within my sports have been around kind of solving a problem or just curiosity and wanting to try something new. Boredom, being like, hey, I'm tired of doing it this way. Or just looking at the normal conventional way and just going, well, is that the only way? Is that the way you do it? Or can we do it another way? Always kind of questioning authority when it comes to that, or questioning the status quo. It's like, just because we've always done it that way, does that mean that's the only way to do it? Is that the best way to do it? Is there another way to do it? Those are just all things I think that I had as a little kid. And then as I went, it manifested itself in different ways. And, you do it once and you get some sort of benefit from that. And then you're like, oh, that was cool. And then, it gives you courage to go and kind of follow your instincts, follow your intuitions, and I think, being an athlete and trying to convince sponsors to pay you, seeing the way the whole system works, being at the mercy of corporate control, and, maybe some guys running the business that's your boss that actually really wanted to do what you do. So he doesn't like you. So he's always kind of trying to suppress you. I think all those things drive you to kind of wanting to be the skipper of your own ship, kind of like, hey, I want to be my own sponsor. Let me sponsor myself. That was it. Some of it out of just necessity, trying to make ends meet. Like, hey, I'm not above getting on an excavator. I'm not above fixing a toilet. I'm not above any of these things. And some of it's, a means to an end. If I can go and do something really I don't want to do, that I'd rather not do, to help me do what I want to do, I'll do that. I got no problem going out and doing that.
Do you think, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, sometimes because you had success in all these areas, because you thought differently, right? You questioned the way things were always done. Sometimes that could be a trap, right? Like, hey, I questioned the way things were done. I created it, it worked. The next thing I did worked. And then you start believing, right? You start believing that you could pretty much do anything. I climbed that mountain. I got it done. I survived. So now I can go get Everest done. Who cares? It's noon. I know we're not supposed to summit after noon, but I always seem to make it. Kind of a trap, no?
Yeah, I mean, I've had enough failures consistently as well. I think that kept me in check. And, like I had friends that I was with that, would be creative and we'd be doing some project together and then they'd want to reinvent the wheel. And I'd be like, well, no, the wheel's been invented. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just go get a good wheel and use a good wheel that's already been done. So I think that that's some of it too. I mean, I think there is a trap to that, I mean, I've watched, and I can speak about it in surfing. I've watched people, let's say we're riding a giant wave for years. We've been real cautious, respectful, riding the wave, with respect to it. And then you see somebody come along that just steps in and does something that maybe you haven't quite done yet. And they just do it like the first time. And you're like, wow, that was kind of like, I've been cautious and kind of walking a certain way. And here comes this guy, just steps into it, and pulls it off. But I'm always reminded like, yeah, that's going to happen, but that's not how I approach it. And even a blind squirrel can find an acorn, right? At a certain point, you're like, that's cool. They pulled that off. 9 times out of 10, they might not. And the next 9, they might not. And so I'm like, I'll avoid the 9. I'll go about it the way I feel comfortable going about it. Again, I've had enough failures and enough, injuries and all those kind of things, which I connect to failures. Doesn't mean you don't go down bad roads and don't, and you do have to be cautious about, I think that comes back to faith too. I think a big piece of it is having perspective about where you are in the world and what you actually know and what you think, I think when I look at myself, I think there's a certain, if you can consistently have a certain amount of humility, understand that there are greater forces than you. I mean, the ocean is such a good teacher that way. You get a little cocky and the wave might just take you and put you underwater and you'll be down there going, I wonder if I'm going to get back up again. Like, I don't know if I'm going to. And so I think that I always had that to keep me in check. I think maybe had I done things that didn't have that ruler involved, I didn't have that teacher like they're ready to just at any second just go boom and push and slap you down. I think that maybe I could have gotten a little carried away. Not that I haven't gotten carried away, but that consistently keeps you in check. Like the ocean just has an ability. You get a little puffy chest, you start thinking you're a little hot shit, and it'll just go and just give you a spanking. And so I've been fortunate in that way to have that kind of governing body,
No, that makes sense. When I meet high performing military or, combat athletes at the highest level, I'm always amazed at how like they don't have sharp edges, they're balanced, they're humble. And I guess exactly like you're saying with the ocean, they've taken a beating and they take a beating every once in a while. So they're in check, right? They've got that governor.
You better hope you get the beating, because that's the only thing that you can that you can rely on to bring you back to homeostasis. If you don't, then you start getting a little. I mean, you see that in our world. You get a little puffy chest, you get a little pride because you think you're so smart and you did the thing, and and maybe you just stepped in it. A lot of time people step in stuff, and then we connect somehow success to somehow that you're so special, and maybe we're all special, everybody's special, but having the proper perspective about what that is exactly, what we are, what you are, like, and I think that for me, I feel like that's such a blessing. And when you don't have that, then you're bound to just run off a cliff, and then it's like, oh, what now? Like, and because you're not ready for it. And I think when you get that constant reboot each time, that just keeps you in that spot so that if you do go off a cliff, it's not such a far journey. You come back, you try to pull it up and pull the chute and grab the line and pull yourself back up. And I think that's true on both sides of that line.
You're in a serious business now, a giant business, food business, tough business. Stuff's got to be shelf stable, and it goes bad if it sits around too long. So you got inventory, like you got all kinds of headaches. The toughest business in the world is a food business. You got into it, Laird Superfoods, tougher than big wave surfing, tougher than stuff you've done in the past.
I have a friend, Don Wildman, who, and I don't know if you know of him, great, what a savage, since passed away. I spent a lot of time with him. He was in Korea, started Bally's Health Clubs, sold it at the Pinnacle, did the Ironman 10 times. And, he used to talk about, being in a business situation and it's like, well, this is not life threatening. I'm not getting shot at. I'm not getting held down by a giant wave that I might not come up from, and again, then being realistic about what exactly it is, what is success, what is failure, all of those things. I think that, that when we put too much on things, then they have too much on us. And so I think that there's a balance there. It doesn't mean that, that I'm not wishing for success. And I mean, listen, we're making things that people ingest, right? Which is, that's part of the toughness of that. But then we're also making things that we feel good about people ingesting, that we try to make products that have things that we feel good about them ingesting. We're not making things where we might have a level of guilt about that. We don't have that. We don't have that guilt. So our challenges are just to try to continue to, get the ingredients, make the right products, make it in a way that we feel good about. And I think that's the part for me that's exciting. And again, if I was stripped down to my surf shorts and I was at the beach and that was all I had and that's what I was doing, not a bad thing. This isn't a bad thing. This isn't a, now if you said, hey, you're going to go to hell, I might be a little more worried. And really when I think about my family too, I think that's the most vulnerable I ever get that I've ever been in my life. When I have my children and I think about them and I think about their safety and I think about their health and I think about everything about them. For me, I'm like, okay, I'm get hit, I get knocked down, I get up, I can do something about it. But when I'm participating as a father and as a husband, the vulnerability that I have, that surpasses most any vulnerability that I've ever experienced. And I think that that's one of the greatest challenges that we can have here, and not easy. I mean, a lot of people can make successful companies, but try have a good relationship, try have, good children, or have children that are healthy and that are okay, like content humans, like these are all, and some of it's yet to be discovered. But yeah, I again, it's all about, what things mean to you, where do they fall in the hierarchy of what success is. We live on this dimension of you're the greatest and that company's the biggest and all of these things. And yet we don't look at probably some of the most important things and value. I mean, a woman's not valued as a mother as much as she should be, as that position, the importance of that position. I mean, without that, none of us would be here. And with good ones, people are better than with bad ones and all of these things, but we don't give that any real credibility. So again, it's, what is success for you? What is important for you? What does this stuff mean? And, Don used to say, hey, if you can fix it with money, it's not a problem. Like, when you get sick, what do they say? You have 1,000 problems until you get sick, and then you only have one problem.
No, that's exactly right. How's the business going? I see it all over my kitchen. My wife's addicted to it, so it must be going well if it's made its all, into our kitchen.
I mean, I feel, like I said, I feel really good when I meet people that are using the product. I think when you do things, I don't want to say right and honest, but that's a longer road. That those are longer roads. Those aren't overnight blow up and then dissipate. Those don't have freaky kind of, I mean, some of them do maybe, but in this kind of area, it's a slow, steady build. It's about having the right people. I mean, our CEO is incredible. We've been, we needed that. We didn't have that for a while, having the right people in the business that are passionate about the business, that believe in the business. I mean, that's critical. Those are critical elements, so, and I mean, we continue to grow, and we even within some of these kind of economic climates, it's a sign that, what we're doing is working. It's working. And we use all this stuff ourselves. I feel like it doesn't get more authentic than that. Start there, and then it can grow from there. But again, and now more than ever, you're seeing people become a lot more conscious, especially after COVID and just all the nature of the health in our country. And you see all the people, all the issues that we're having. I think that this is just one of the pieces. This is a small piece, but like better than anybody, it's building off of that first step. Like, just give me success. Just get me over this one wall. Just get me through this one ditch. Just get me over this one tree. And then we can build from that. So if you can give people, a little bit of hope in a bleak environment, they can build from that. Like, and I don't care, there's better things and other things to do, but if this gives them something to build from, I think that's I feel good about that. Like, I feel good about, we want to help people. I think we've grown up, both Gabby and I, wanting to help people. My mom was a people helper. I grew up in Hawaii with Hawaiian culture that it's very generous, very helpful. You always share what benefits you. Sometimes we live in a world like, hey, I'm going to hide my little secret formula because it gives me an advantage over the other guy. We're more like, hey, I'll give you what I use. And if you can outdo me with my stuff, then awesome. You're great. Congratulations. And so that's just a little bit of a different mentality. And again, that's a little tougher road sometimes. Sometimes that road is not all just wide open with all the lanes going. You hit resistance and so.
No, and anybody listening or watching, I think what you're saying, I always said, if we were in the food business and we had the greatest intentions ever, which you are, and we were a public company, which you are, we would probably be making adjustments and compromises because this ingredient is a little cheaper. We could sell it a little faster if we added more sugar or whatever. And before you know it, people start out with these great intentions, and then we end up with all this shitty product being fed to people. And so it's very refreshing to know, because I know you and Gabby very well, that you're not gonna trade in your principles. You're not gonna lower your standards. But that means it doesn't sell as fast. It's a tougher business. I mean, if you just made Laird Doritos the way, Doritos, you'd sell a ton, you'd put a bunch of money in your pocket, go surfing, but you'd be poisoning people and probably not be able to sleep at night.
Well, when you look at, I look at a lot of, first of all, I look at just food as an example because we're involved. We all do it every day. We eat. If you look at food and you think about most of the food started great. These fast food chains, they started with some really incredible stuff. But before you know it, one little thing slips in, then another little thing slips in, then another little thing slips in. And before you know it, it's not even the same thing as what it was before. It is difficult when you have a company publicly traded because, again, it's quarterly. Everybody's looking at the quarterly thing and how are you improve and how do you make more? And but when you look at what that's done to all products, it's taken all the equity out of everything. It takes all the metal out of a car. It takes all the nutrients out of food. It takes all the foundation out of everything over time. And it's not always nefarious. It's just the nature of the system, especially if you're not conscious of it. And we're running into it all the time where, hey, just natural flavors. And we're like, yeah, but those aren't natural. Like, hey, what about this one? You can replace that with this. And I'm like, yeah, if I made everything just for me, right? So I made everything just for me. Most of the stuff would taste like mud, and I'd have you, me, and my 5 friends, and we'd be awesome. We'd love the stuff, but you have to also go to where people are. Like, where are they? Where are they? They're in a place where you have to kind of try to get them from where they are and bring them over to just over a little bit.
You say that, right? But here's the challenge I have. I get it. I agree with you. I would be selling mud. I'd be selling like apple cider vinegar. And I look at Howard over at Starbucks. Starbucks is everywhere. I operate in 45 countries. It's easy for me to walk into a Starbucks and get something. There's nothing to get. Everything is loaded with there. So when you say meet people where they are, is it that everybody just wants that? Is it that bad?
But part of it is because you don't know. Like, you don't know. So part of it is what you don't know doesn't bother you. So you have that too. You have a little bit of you don't really have a comparison. It's not like, wow, you had this amazing cup of coffee and then you went back and you went, wow, this tastes like battery acid and my stomach is ripped up. It's just, it's got all this ingredients that I can't pronounce. And so I think that some of it is that yeah, everything is, the volume of it is beyond, which I think there within lies the opportunity. But, even Starbucks, we were like, hey, that would be a great venue for us to try to be able to get our products in there. And even if they might try to steal them, but it doesn't matter because in a way their brand's not that brand. So
yeah, you'd have to add 800 grams of sugar to everything you sell there, though.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or figure out a way to because there's ways to make stuff. I mean, the truth is, they did a study about tomatoes and I'll make this short, but they grew tomatoes every single kind of way you could grow tomatoes, every single fertilizer, this. And at the end, they came up with the best tasting tomato was the one that had the most nutrient density. So the best tasting tomato had the most nutrient density, which was the one that was grown in the most nutrient dense soil. I'm like, of course, like that makes sense. But when you've only eaten, an air tomato that has nothing in it your whole life, you don't even know. And then you go to Europe and you're in Italy and you're like eating a tomato and you're like, oh my gosh, these tomatoes are the best tomatoes I've ever had. I'm like,
I'm in Austria. I got to go meet with a company. We stop at a gas station and I get a salad. I'm starving. I just landed. I'm eating this salad in the gas station. I'm like, this is the greatest salad I've ever had. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
From a gas station.
No, but that's because they still connect the value of that, right? Like they still, or they have brought back, but they connect the value of eating and as something that is really benefit, like they cherish food, right? And not,
Yeah.
and it's, some of it's being overtaken, but they cherish it like something valuable. We're like, okay, shove this stuff in my mouth. I'm out the door, just fill the hole and, and then go from there. So we don't put we don't really enjoy, we don't enjoy food and we don't enjoy the whole process of making food.
How do people find you?
Oh, I guess on social media. I'm so bad with all that stuff. I'm Superfood, Laird Hamilton,
Is that cool? You're awesome. Thanks for taking the time.
Joe, it's always a pleasure.